Hi, and welcome to a fun game where I try to talk about my recent reads while my lighting sucks and I desperately try to film this before my camera dies. Today I'm just going to talk about things I've recently read. Basically a November wrap up, but it's a little bit further from November, so I'm just going to call it recent reads. Okay, so the first book I read this month was The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't want to get too far into this because I did talk about this in a video that might come some point. Who knows? I gave this 4 stars. If you don't know what Lord of the Rings is, this series follows a hobbit named Frodo who unfortunately inherited a ring from his uncle that he finds out is the One Ring, which was created by the Dark Lord so that he could rule over everyone. So Frodo, my god, this is getting off to a rough start. So Frodo inherits this ring and he has to take it across Middle Earth and destroy it. Again, I liked it. Very slow at times and definitely a product of its time, but still very charming and very wholesome. My cat is making the most noise possible right now. Honey, I love you so much. Here's my cat. Okay, moving on. Next book I read, In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. This is the memoir of one of my favorite writers. In it, she shares her story about the abuse that she faced in a queer relationship. She expresses how important it is to talk about because abuse in a queer relationship isn't something that we have societal awareness of or that we talk about generally, so she wanted to share her story. And this book is so beautifully done. The writing in here is fucking amazing. It's unlike any memoir I've ever read, and it's done really creatively. She even has like a choose your story segment in the middle of the book, which is a really dark period for her to do it. Regardless, Machado is fucking amazing. I really love how she compared the abusive relationship to like a Brother Grimm fairy tale. I thought that was so fucking clever. And this memoir was just so well done. It reads much more like a novel. I would recommend this to literally anyone, and I have told like 10 people to read it ever since I finished it. Definitely a new favorite. I gave this one 5 stars. Holding it like I'm in a commercial. A really bad commercial. After that, I sought out Further Pain, and I picked out Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller was the victim in a very public story of sexual assault. If you know the story of Bach Turner, Stanford student who raped a girl behind a dumpster, this is Chanel Miller's story. It's fucking rough. It follows, first of all, that night right before any of that happened, and then you see her wake up in the hospital having no idea why she is there or what happened to her. No one really fucking explains it to her, which is unbelievable. And then you also follow her experience throughout the trial. You see firsthand how traumatic it is for survivors to have to be put through trial like that. This memoir was incredible. It was honestly fucking heartbreaking. And Chanel Miller's such an amazing writer too. Like, it's kind of amazing to me that she hasn't pursued this full time, because I really think she could just be like that, a writer as a profession. And this one was another 5 stars for me. Then the month went downhill a little bit. I picked up mcglue by Tessa Moshfegh. This was not it. Well, first of all, picked up this book because I really want to read My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and I saw it for like $3 online. Shouldn't have picked it up. Story doesn't really appeal to me in the first place. I really love the cover though, so that was another shining point for it. So this book takes place in 1851. You're following the main character mcglue, who is an alcoholic. He wakes up with a very severe head injury and is told that he killed the man who is basically his best friend, and the whole time he thinks that this is just an elaborate joke, that his best friend is like pulling on him. Meanwhile, he's being like put to jail for murder and stuff. I just don't see the appeal of this at all. Like, you go on the Goodreads page and everyone's raving about it and I don't understand. I didn't like any of the characters, which is fine. Like, I don't need to like the characters, but if I'm not liking the characters, I have to like the plot. I didn't like the plot either. I also don't understand how people didn't know how it was going to end. I feel like I knew the ending right away and then I just had to like sit through the rest of it. I just found the slow reveal to be incredibly boring. So yeah, this was not for me. I'm still interested in Moshfegh's other work because I think that if I was more interested in the plot, I could have been cool with this. But yeah, I gave this 1 star. After that, I picked up My Dark Vanessa by, I actually don't know her name, Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is another book I bought on a whim. This one actually turned out a little bit better. So this book was inspired by the Me Too movement. We were following the main character Vanessa during 2 different periods in her life. First period is when she was 16, going to a boarding school, and was in a relationship with her pedophilic teacher. And the second storyline is when Vanessa is in her mid to late 20s, and another girl who went to the same school has come out against that same teacher for sexual abuse, but Vanessa isn't ready to see that as sexual abuse or that teacher as abusive in any way. So this was, oh my god, Saphira! My cat's fucking zooting. So this is a very hard read. I don't think it's possible for anything with this subject matter to not be a hard read. I do think it was really interesting that in the second timeline, Vanessa doesn't see what happened to her as abuse or assault, and in fact, like, she still views her relationship with that teacher as her first love, and she still has very complicated, like, devoted feelings towards him. I think in some ways that's a more realistic portrayal of grooming for a lot of people. Obviously, all experiences are different, but I think that with something like the Me Too movement, we haven't necessarily made room for some of these complexities, like for survivors who aren't ready to admit, or like for survivors who aren't ready to understand what they've been through, or oh my god. I really appreciate how this book dove into like the complexities of grooming in a way that a lot of the stories coming out of the Me Too movement haven't. Oh my god, Saphira! This video is a fucking mess. Stop! Anyway, another comment is I like how this book utilized Lolita. Like, it didn't pretend it was ignorant to that at all. It actually talked a lot about Lolita. Vanessa, when she was being groomed by her teacher, he recommended her Lolita, and she viewed it in completely, obviously, the wrong way. I did like how they kind of played on that throughout this novel. But yeah, overall, I liked this. I didn't love it. I don't think I'd read it again because it is like a very heavy subject. I gave it 3 stars. And then the 2 last books I read in November, I'm not going to go into too much detail because these will potentially be in another video, so sorry about that. So the first of those is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was really engaging. I'm not into thrillers either, so I was kind of surprised that I did get into this at all. That's all I'm going to say about my personal thoughts. You have to watch a different video at a different time. But for anyone who hasn't heard about this book, it follows the main character Michael, who is hired by one of the wealthiest families in Sweden to solve a decades-old murder. And then the other main character is a woman named Elizabeth, who eventually ends up in this investigation. Definitely worth the read. And then the last book I picked up in November was Rose Madder by Stephen King. Again, another one that's gonna be in a video. This book was interesting. Stephen King usually does a lot of like supernatural horror stuff, and there is like a small supernatural element to this, but it's definitely not the main focus. This book follows our main character Rose, who in the beginning of the novel escapes an extremely abusive relationship, and you follow her as she tries to make a new life, but then there's the ever-present threat of her ex-husband coming after her because he's a deranged lunatic. This one I did not like. I gave it 1 star. I do not think it's worth the read. I'll discuss my feelings in more depth later on. So those are all the books I read in November. Thank you for sticking with me through this fucking mess of a video. My cat is staring at me because she knows what she's done. And I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye!